Here's more of the Alice Stewart Show on 96.5 The Voice.
Every girl crazy about a Stardust man.
And we're back on the Alice Stewart Show, 6:45 on a nice Tuesday morning here. The exchange of Sergeant Bo Bergdahl for 5 key Taliban detainees is back in the news. And you may recall recently the president made an announcement that Bo Bergdahl would be released for 5 detainees in Guantanamo. And there was some back and forth on this, given that Bo Bergdahl had been a prisoner of war for 5 years, and this announcement to release these 5 terror detainees without the approval of Congress, without the consent of Congress, done without talking with even the intelligence leaders in Washington, really has sparked a lot of controversy. And our Congressman Tom Cotton has taken steps on this, and he has introduced legislation on this key issue. Congressman Cotton joins us on the Royal Overhead Door Hotline. Congressman Cotton, good morning.
Good morning, Alice. Great to be on with you.
I appreciate you joining us. Now, when this transfer was made, it was done without the approval of those on the Hill. And what you have done, it's a $570 billion defense bill that would block the transfer of any Guantanamo Bay detainees for a year. And this is in protest of the Bergdahl prisoner swap. Why is this so important?
The Bergdahl prisoner exchange has made America less safe. Somewhere today, there's an Arkansan on the front lines in Afghanistan pulling guard. And he or she is at greater danger now than he or she was a month ago, because the Taliban and Al-Qaeda all know that there's a price on that soldier's head. For that matter, any American traveling overseas anywhere faces greater danger, because the president has said we negotiate with terrorists. In particular, he released 5 senior Taliban commanders. These are not goat herders or even foot soldiers. These are senior commanders, the equivalent of their Secretary of Defense or Director of Central Intelligence. And to top it off, the president conducted this exchange in direct violation of the law that he signed just last year, saying that he would give Congress 30 days notification. So to ensure that these kind of exchanges don't happen again, and also to reclaim our responsibilities under the Constitution as a co-equal branch, I added an amendment last week to the military funding bill that would stop all detainee transfers from Guantanamo Bay for the next year. I was pleased that I got bipartisan support for that amendment, and I hope the Senate immediately passes this urgent legislation.
You had tremendous support. The measure passed 230 to 184, and all of the members of the Arkansas delegation, Congressmen Womack, Crawford, and Griffin, voted in support of this because clearly the president abused his authority with releasing the Taliban 5. Do you see this, Congressman, as a way to, the president has said from day one he would close Gitmo, has not been able to do so. Is this just the first steps of many in his promise to close Gitmo?
I believe that the Bergdahl prisoner exchange was an effort to start a roadshow to show that detainees can be released. And why not release some of the worst of all? If we release the 5 senior Taliban commanders and 6 months later there's no obvious evidence that they've gone back into the fight, hey, we can release the other 149. But Alice, these commanders are already moving around freely in Qatar. We may not see them picking up an AK-47 and shooting an American soldier, but they're already able to send messages through couriers or cutouts back to their allies on the battlefield in Afghanistan. So there might not be any direct evidence within 6 months or a year to show that they're back in the fight, but I suspect they already are coordinating with their allies again. And the people of Arkansas, just like Americans everywhere, don't stand for that.
And Congressman, as you know, the Obama administration has already voiced strong opposition to this idea on the constitutional grounds. How do you see this playing out as it makes its way to the Senate? And specifically, you're running for U.S. Senate against Senator Mark Pryor. How do you see him voting on this?
Well, as I said, I hope the Senate immediately takes up this urgent legislation, because we have no idea when the president will act again. For all we know, he could be preparing to release more detainees today. I'd call for Mark Pryor to show some leadership for once on critical national security matters and demand a vote from Harry Reid, because we don't need any more detainees from Guantanamo, hardened terrorists, the worst who are still there, going back to the battlefield. As far as its constitutionality, the power of the purse is Congress's first core power. We spend the people's money. Oftentimes, we don't spend it that wisely. But in this case, we're going to stop the president from spending it unwisely in a way that puts Arkansans and Americans' lives at risk.
And that's so key, and that's what's at stake here. And with regard to Guantanamo, these are people that they weren't just sent there to be put away. These are people that we know that they have engaged in terrorist activity. Many of them taken the lives of many Americans. So the importance and the value of keeping them there, why is that so critical for not just the safety of Americans, but that's part of the war on terror?
Alice, there's 149 detainees left at Guantanamo Bay. These are the worst of the worst. Hundreds of detainees have been released over the years. So you're down now to the hardcore terrorists that are battlefield multipliers, intelligence experts, bomb makers, the kind of people that if they are released will go straight back to the battlefield and kill Americans. In fact, the military's own Joint Task Force Guantanamo Bay estimates that of the 149 detainees there, 120 of them are high risk to return to the battlefield and cost American lives.
And on this story, with regard to Bo Bergdahl, as many are aware, he had been held captive for 5 years after his platoon members say he deserted. He left more than once, left his platoon mates and deserted, and that has been repeated over and over. He is now working his way back and being integrated back into society, yet we've had some in the administration who have questioned the validity of those who left their troops and questioned the stories of them. And you spoke out very vocally on this on the House floor. I want to play your comments on this and where this stands right now, because what you said, I think, was so important to stand behind those that we have American soldiers who lost their lives looking for Bergdahl. And here are your comments with regard to the sources who are questioning Bergdahl's platoon mates.
I want to say something to the anonymous sources in the President's administration who are disparaging the service of 2nd Platoon and Blackfoot Company. Show yourself, speak in your own name, have the courage of your convictions. And if you don't, shut up and stand back and thank these men for their service.
Congressman, has anyone come forward?
No, of course not. They're a bunch of cowards. They spent the last 10 years patrolling the main streets of the Georgetown cocktail party circuit. The closest most of these people, to include the president, have ever come to a gun is a water pistol at the White House Easter egg roll. It's particularly appalling that after the president made this decision, and all of those soldiers who risked their lives, some of whom gave their lives searching for Bo Bergdahl, that you had anonymous White House sources questioning the discipline of that platoon, questioning their performance, or saying that they were just outright lying about what happened to Bo Bergdahl. He'll have his day in front of a court-martial if the president and his chain of command doesn't exercise unlawful command influence to prevent that once he's medically cleared. But until then, I am disgusted that you have anonymous White House staffers who have never put on their country's uniform, who are criticizing the very men and women who keep them safe in their creature comforts in Washington, D.C.
And spoken from someone who has put on that uniform. We appreciate your time this morning, Congressman Tom Cotton. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to talking with you soon.
Thank you, Alice. Great to be on with you.
Thank you. And once again, this is something that Bo Bergdahl is working his way back into society, and we hope that he comes back full circle and 100%, but to question and to criticize his platoon mates who speak honestly about his deserting America, shame on them. We'll take a break. We'll be back to wrap up this first hour of the Alice Stewart Show right after this.
The Alice Stewart Show on 96.5 The Voice.